Hello, my name is Ryan Reeves. I'm a senior communications major from Beaumont, Texas, or at least that's where I currently live. I take all my classes online since I don't live there in Huntsville. Started my career here in Beaumont 3 years ago. I work full time and I'm currently taking a few classes a semester, just kind of chipping away at my degree and hopefully getting finished up here pretty soon. Just a few things about me. I recently got married to my best friend, Alexis, this past October, and that's just been the pleasure of my life. Some of the things that I like to do. I like to spend a lot of time outdoors. Hunting and fishing are some of my favorite things to do, and then cooking, which kind of goes along well with my other hobbies. My wife and I love to cook. But let's kind of get into what we want to talk about today, which is haptics. So another word for haptics is tactics. Uh, but first, we're going to talk about the definition of haptics a little bit, and really what it boils down to is physical touch. So physical contact between one person or another. And some of the other things that sort of play into it, proxemics, which is the study of space between us, violating that personal space, and people can get really violated when you touch them and they're not expecting it or they don't want it. Unwanted touch can be as negative as wanted touch can be positive. So let's talk a little bit about why touch is important. That's kind of the first big thing that I want to focus on. So we'll go back to some studies done, really a while ago, about babies, human babies, and this was something that really stood out for me. So they studied, infants in orphanages and just generally across the country, and they had a phenomenon called marasmus, and babies were dying, and they literally were wasting away, and it was because they weren't touched, they weren't feeling love, they didn't feel good. And one of the things that the researchers noticed is that breastfed babies were much healthier. And who's to say whether it was the nutrients from the breast milk or whether it was the touch from love? Personally, I think it's probably a combination of both. There were some researchers, Harlow and Zimmerman, in 1958, that studied monkeys, and it was baby monkeys, and they put kind of a fake mom in the cage with them, and they had basically two moms. They had a wire body mom that was real rough, and then they had a cloth body mom that was soft and much more I guess comfortable to sit on. And even when the wire mom was the one that had the food and was feeding the monkeys, they spent the majority of the time on the cloth mom, getting that touch. So they didn't sit in the corner by themselves, and they certainly didn't sit on the wire body mom, even though the wire body mom had the food. But why is touch important? It reinforces love. It makes you feel wanted, and it lets you know that you're wanted. Makes you feel safe. Touch was really one of the first and most important forms of communication. I think it still is one of the most important forms of communication. Talk about animals and our human species even at one point in time as it was developing through time. There was no language when babies are born. They don't talk. They don't understand our words or language or what we want them to do. Or if you tell your child, "Hey, I love you," they're not going to understand it at 1 or 2 days old, but they can feel that touch, and it's the most important form of communication for them at that point in time. It ensures them that you're there. They feel safe, and it's personal and it's vulnerable. Something that my wife and I have experienced. We touch is very important for us, and it ensures a sense of security when I'm holding my wife's hand or we're sitting together on the couch. Uh, sure, I guess I could look over at her, but touching her, I know she's there. I know she's safe. I know she's home, and she feels the same way. All right, moving on to our next thing I want to talk about, and that's expectancy violation. So, violating those haptic expectations. Um, some of the things that expectancy violations, focus on is the location of the touch, the duration, and how intense it is. So we'll talk about a form of negative touch first because I think it's the easiest to understand. Um, Hitting somebody or getting hit. Usually it's in a sensitive location. Very short durations and high intensity. and it's negative. Nobody likes getting hit. Versus something like a brush on a cheek, from a loved one or a family member, a warm embrace from mom. Those are things that are generally viewed very positively by people, welcomed, makes them feel good. For me, I'm not a hugger. I don't, go out in public, and when I first meet somebody, I don't want to hug. I prefer to maintain my distance, and that's fine. But um, family members, of course, I want to hug. So it's situational. It's all about what you expect, and people violating that. So you have to respect it, but understand it is a form of communication, and people communicate differently. So you can't expect that how you feel is going to be how everybody else feels about touch. Um, so we've kind of talked about why touch is so important, and that some people don't like it, some people do. Some people like more of it and less of it, but it's so important for humans that even folks that aren't getting enough of it are finding substitutes for it. When infants are born, sort of the senses that, or I guess in order, the sequence of senses is touch, vision, and hearing. So touch is absolutely the most important. But just the way our society is, and as we grow up, and as we come into the world, adults, that order switches up. It goes to vision, hearing, and touch. So it comes in last in that sequence. And folks try to make up for that, and it's human nature. One of the things that they do is it's kind of called substitutes for or touch for hire. Um, Massages are a great example of that. That was something that was mentioned in the book. But pets, people get pets. They want to feel that affection. They want to, have the dog or the cat jump up on the couch and cuddle with them. A lot of people sleep with their pets. Um, and you can see it's reciprocal. The pets feel the same way. How many times have you had a dog walk up and put his paw on your leg or his head under your hand? Because he wants pets. He wants attention. He wants that touch, that physical touch. He wants to, feel loved. Um, but we'll kind of wrap it up with that. Personally, I think that touch is the most important form of communication because it's human nature. We like to be touched. We like to touch others, and it's hugging, kissing. The more intimate forms of touch, and it's also just shaking hands, greeting people. It can be the most basic, but touch is a very, very intricate form and intricate base to our communication here in modern society. Why is it that important? Because it reinforces love, it reinforces attention. Even when you are in a professional business setting, you shake somebody's hand and touch them on the elbow, however you want to go about it, but it lets them know that you're paying attention to them, you're looking at them, you're listening to them. With that being said, it's not always good. You kind of got to understand your audience and what you're trying to accomplish. And some of the examples we brought up, like hitting somebody, it's not going to be viewed well or received well. When we don't find or have enough touch, people find substitutes for it, and be aware of that. But I appreciate you guys listening to me. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day.